I made it up here without tripping, so we're already doing really well. So, all right, how's it going, everybody? My name's John, and we're going to be getting pretty personal over the next 12 minutes or so. So I figured I should tell you a little bit about myself first, right? So my name's John Bonini, as Sean just did a much better job talking about me than I probably could. I work for Litmus. I'm a mama's boy, big time. That's my beautiful mom. Her name is Barbara. This is one of the few times where she's not embarrassed of me. So this doesn't happen very often, so it was really nice to get this in photograph form. This is one of those times where she was embarrassed. These are my siblings. I have 2 brothers, a sister. These guys are my best friends. I don't think I've laughed harder than when I'm with these guys. My support group, my rocks, my people. These are my siblings. I have a family of 6. My dad's not pictured here. I guess that's just kind of what happens with dads. They're just forgotten about. Sorry, dads. And these are my brothers. I'm a big outdoorsman. I love to do things outside. This is us summiting Mount Washington about 4 or 5 years ago. And nobody got sick, and we all made it, although we did get a car ride down. So if you ever do hike, just get a car ride down. Relax. And I'm a horrible dancer, although I love to have fun doing it. So this is me at my brother's wedding. Embarrassing everyone, not only my mom, but I love to have fun doing it. And as we said, I have the privilege of being growth director at a really cool email software company called Litmus, based here in Cambridge. So now that I kind of told you guys something about me, I would love to hear just a little bit something about you too. So when I say go, I want everyone in here to just say your job title out loud, okay? We got this, right? I know it's early, but it's almost lunchtime. So go. Wow, I thought I was like, I have to do that more than once. You guys are good. All right, one more time. That made no freaking sense. I didn't understand a word any of you guys said, but that's because we're all different, and that's awesome. Everyone in here comes from a different background. We have different jobs. We have different job titles. We're in different industries, and that's awesome, right? That's what makes a conference like this awesome. So we're all different, but there are things that join us together. We do have these commonalities among us that we all share. Some like to call these things absolutes. And no, I'm not talking about death and taxes, because if there's anything pop culture has taught us, it's that they're not true. Keith Richards, lead guitarist of the Rolling Stones. This guy is still alive. He's done every drug on the table, and I really believe that anytime you do anything unhealthy, whether that's eating more carbs than you're supposed to, have a cigarette, or whatever it is, it takes a year off your life and it gives it to Keith. So I think that's why he's still around. And, I mean, you don't have to pay taxes. I mean, you'll go to jail, but, I mean, you don't have to pay taxes. It's not an absolute if you can get away with not doing it and still, be able to make quiche while you're behind bars. This wouldn't have gone over well at iNBOUND 14, so I'm glad that Martha couldn't make it this year. So, as far as absolutes go, I think there's only one. There's only one absolute that everyone in here and anyone anywhere shares that will happen, and that's adversity. It's the only absolute there is in life. And adversity takes several different forms. You could lose your job. That's stress. It's worry. It's anger. It's frustration. You could lose a loved one. It's heartbreak. It's loneliness. It's depression. You can be involved in an accident. You can feel guilt. You can be worried, anxious. There's a million different ways for all of us to go through adversity, but the only thing guaranteed is that we will go through it at some point. Adversity is guaranteed. Happiness is optional. Some people think it's the other way around and that we can control adversity and control the things that happen to us, but in all honesty, sometimes we just can't. And happiness is dependent on how we deal with adversity. So when I say happiness is optional, I'm not saying that it's not up to you. It is up to you. But it's up to you in the way that you handle adversity. But there's no playbook on this stuff, right? There's no playbook on how to handle adversity. Sure, there's self-help books. There's your friends who are going to tell you how they would handle it if they were in the situation, but they never were. So really, you just have to find empathy, right? You have to find people that can relate to you. And so since there's no playbook, the only thing we could do is rely on each other, the stories that we all share, how we each handled situations. So that's what I decided to do here today for you guys. So this is my Amanda. This picture was taken about 5 years ago on New Year's Eve. Here's another picture. This is Central Park in New York City. This is somewhere, her embarrassing herself at the expense of me. I told her to do this. This was in the Bahamas, and this is, I believe, is Daytona Beach. So on March 19th, 2013, I was at work when I got a phone call from Amanda's mother, and she told me to come by the house, and I should come by right now. So judging by the tone of her voice and everything, I knew that obviously something was off, right? So I went by the house. I was invited in by her parents. I was told to sit down. Didn't want to sit down. That day, there had been a snowstorm in Connecticut. It's where I'm from. And she had been in an accident where her car veered off the road, hit a guardrail. She was fine. She called her parents to let them know that she was in this accident. And she was on her way. She was in grad school to be a dentist, so she was on her way to take a test. So she had to make this test. So before she went on her way, she just wanted to make sure that everything with the car was okay. So she got out of the car and took a look, and she was struck by another vehicle. And we lost Amanda that day. So, this is something that you don't script, right? Like how I explain this to you guys, and I made sure not to, because I want it to just be, how it was, right? Everything becomes very dark. You withdraw from pretty much everybody, including my own family I withdrew from. Even mundane tasks like shaving and putting on clothes in the morning became monumental tasks that seemed impossible to do. Getting out of bed, talking to anybody, you just don't want to see anyone. And it was like this for me for about 3 to 4 weeks, where I wouldn't even respond to my own family. It's a very solitary state, being in this level of adversity and grief. It's very solitary. You feel alone. Especially at the time I was 29, you feel like grief is for old people, right? Like everything you read about grief is people that are, older, or authors that are older. There's very little young people that are talking about grief and adversity. So you feel very alone in the whole thing. About 4 weeks in, I got a phone call from my friend Justin, and he said, "You want to grab breakfast?" And Justin and I weren't very close at that time. We were mutual friends. He knew Amanda. He grew up with her. I obviously was with Amanda for 5 years. Wanted to get breakfast. Again, at the time, was a monumental task. This involved getting out of bed, putting clothes on, making sure I looked presentable, and faking it for everyone. But I was really thankful that he did that, because at that time, it was when everyone started going back to their jobs. It's when everyone stopped sending flowers and cards, and you felt even more alone. So I went to breakfast with him that day, and it was great. Like, I remember sitting there at breakfast, having coffee with him, and just feeling great that I was just out and that I was just with him. And even we didn't talk about a whole lot, but just being with somebody made everything feel better, right? We went to breakfast 7 days straight right after that. I think we both needed each other in certain ways. And I had a lot of friends that were like that to me. A lot of them are here right now that were basically a crutch for me to get me moving again. Motion is the most important thing when you're dealing with adversity. The opposite of grief is not happiness, as most people would have you believe, or any sort of adversity. It's not happiness. It's motion. It's moving. It's actually putting one foot in front of the other and moving, because it's so easy to stay solitary and unpack your bags and stay in this state of grief that you find yourself in. It's incredibly easy in any sort of adversity. There's no competition. So I wanted to throw this picture up here and leave it here for a while, because I wanted to show that this is what can happen when you get things in motion again, when you put one foot in front of the other. My oldest brother convinced me to put myself out there again and try to meet someone. And I just kept telling people that it was over for me. How could anyone ever understand that what I had went through? How would I ever be able to meet somebody again? I invested so much time in this person, and I was so in love with this person, I can never do it again. And then I met Kelly, who's here today, but I won't point her out because she warned me not to do that because I'll embarrass her. I met Kelly, and it seemed like everything changed for me. She put the smile back on my face. And this was after the courageous effort on my part of putting myself back out there again and trying to meet somebody with the chance that heartbreak could happen again, right, in some way, or adversity could happen in some other way. So I met Kelly, but most importantly, I'm going to be meeting this little guy in January. His name's Leo. His name is Leo, and I couldn't imagine a life without not only Kelly, but having this to look forward to. But 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I couldn't imagine a life at all. And this, I think, just kind of illustrates the importance of being able to move forward and put one foot in front of the other and achieve motion. And what is motion? Well, there's going to be a million definitions. You could look it up on a website right now. I'm sure there's an app. But for me, it's just any activity or thought process that takes you out of your present state. It doesn't have to be physical. So any activity or thought process that takes you out of your present state is motion. That's putting yourself out there on a date. That's calling somebody that you haven't talked to in a long time because it was painful. That might be calling your old boss that maybe had to lay you off and it was tough and you're holding a grudge against them, but you call them and just talk to them about it. In any of these situations, that's motion, and that's what's required for us to move forward and achieve happiness again. So this is actually a cake of our gender reveal. I kind of spoiled that already. His name's Leo. So I just want to leave everyone with this. And this was something somebody told me early on. I can't remember who because everything was a blur. But adversity is like anything else. It's a journey, right? We take all of our things with us, our feelings, our emotions. But when facing adversity, don't unpack your bags. It's okay to be there, right? Don't unpack your bags. Pick them up, lace up, and keep moving. Thank you.